Hello and welcome to Fairy Stamper. This is Amanda. And today we're going to be making this bright, colorful, shiny card and making a huge mess with Gilding Flakes. Well, actually they're Aurora Flakes, but they're the same thing as Gilding Flakes. They're just by Cosmic Shimmer. So I started off by ink blending my background, and I chose some colors that complement the Aurora Gilding Flakes that I chose. I chose the Rainbow Sherbet ones. And these Aurora Flakes are, or at least when I purchased them, they were on clearance in the Fairy Stamper store. I'm actually going to pause this and see if they still are. Okay, so the Rainbow Sherbet ones are out of stock now, but there are still just a couple of the different colors on closeout. So hopefully by the time this goes live, those will still be left for anybody that's interested. So if you're interested, don't delay. The Cosmic Shimmer flakes are going quick. All right, so as you can see, I started off with Peacock Feathers. So the Rainbow Sherbet Cosmic Shimmer Flakes, Aurora Flakes, whatever they're called, they have orange, pink, and silver, I believe, in them. And so I chose to do Peacock Feathers, picked raspberry, spiced marmalade, and fossilized amber because I thought that they would go nice with the colors in the Aurora Flakes. So now I have moved on to picked raspberry, and I love doing the picked raspberry with the Peacock Feathers because they blend a nice purpley color in between. So you get a nice rainbow effect with the colors that I have chosen today. Hence the Rainbow Sherbet, Aurora Flakes. I mean, I don't think that there's quite a rainbow of colors in the Rainbow Sherbet. I only saw pink, orange, and silver, but anyways, we'll not pick that apart. All right, so now I'm moving on to Spice Marmalade, and I'm going to flip my panel around and grab some Post-it note tape to stick to my fingers so I don't get my fingers in my ink blending. And flipping around my panel just makes it easier for me to blend. Then we're just going to continue on blending these last couple colors. Now I'm going to move on. Oh, no, I lie. I'm going to go back and blend the pink and the orange together. I do like, that's how I like to blend. I like to lay down one color, lay down the second color, then I go back to the first color. So then when I lay down the third color, I go back to the second color. So I just like to make sure that my colors blend well together as I go across my panel. Some people like to blend their colors all the way across and then go back across backwards, but I just do it as I'm going along. All right, so now we've moved on to Fossilized Amber, which is our last color. So we are almost finished here. I do blend on Nina 80 pound Solar White or Classic Crest Solar White cardstock. That is just what I prefer to blend on, but if you do struggle with ink blending, Bristol Smooth is a great cardstock to blend on. It'll help you blend a little bit better. Those colors will sit on top of that coated cardstock and help you blend. I've been blending for a very long time, so most of the time I just blend on the Nina. Blending takes a lot of practice. All right, so now that I have finished, I'm just going to clean up my glass mat here so I don't make a mess. And now I'm going to bring out my DIY shimmer spray, which is just Perfect Pearls in the color of Perfect Pearl and some water. And that's just going to shine up my panel here. Then I'm going to dry that real quick. And now I've brought out this Ciao Bella stencil called Let the Music Fly. And this did not work out quite like I had wanted it to. I was a little lazy. I should have sprayed pixie spray on the back of this stencil. But I was being lazy, so I just thought I would hold it in place and use my my stamp chamois here and just kind of take up some of the ink. But it really wasn't quite wet enough. It was kind of taking up some of the ink, but not really as fast as I wanted it to. I was being kind of impatient. I think it would have worked if I wasn't being so impatient. But instead I decided to bring out my spray bottle and spray through the stencil. The problem with that is if your stencil isn't sitting completely flush with your paper, you will get some kind of like splatters underneath the stencil. And that is what I was having issues with. I was trying to hold down the stencil and spray at the same time, and that really wasn't working out so great. So I really should have put pixie spray or some kind of stencil adhesive on the back of my stencil so I could properly spray this and not have to hold it down at the same time. So yeah, that was a little bit of a struggle bus, but it just kind of gave me a distressed look, which was fine. I just worked with it. So I'm, as you can see, I'm using my ink pads to hold this down now and try to spray, which did work better, but I still didn't really get the effect that I had in my mind. So after I do this, I am going to do the other side off camera. I did just shift the stencil over and do the other side. And then because I wasn't completely happy with the way it looked, I just splattered some water on the panel. Just to kind of give it more of a distressed look, like it was purposefully done, that I didn't want it to be perfect. And so you will see here in a minute when I switch to stamping on the panel that you'll see that I did do the whole thing, and it's definitely not perfect. Well, I guess you won't see it right this second because I only have part of the stamp in this, or part of the panel on the screen, but you will see it here in a minute. So now I'm stamping the Just a Note for my sentiment, and the reason why I am stamping my sentiment first, I usually don't start with stamping my sentiment, is because I am using some larger stamps to stamp the rest of the scene, and I wanted to make sure that my stamp would definitely fit, or my sentiment would definitely fit. So as you can see, there's the background that I was just talking about with the stenciling, and you can see that it is very distressed looking, and that is fine. It's just part of my background, so it's not a big deal. All right, so now I've got Zelina and the musical dandelion, and I'm stamping them. I've stamped everything in Versifying Claire and Nocturne. And both Zelina and the musical dandelion, this is the first time that I've used them, and especially Zelina being such a solid stamp, I did have to stamp her several times. So I don't prime my stamps. It's not something that I do. I just prefer to stamp them several times and get them seasoned that way. That is a personal preference thing. So it is just going to take me a couple times. I believe I've stamped her 3 times. I'm going to stamp the dandelion twice. And then I'm just going to remove it from my platform and stamp Zelina by herself for the 3rd time and just give her some good pressure. I think I might have had a bubble underneath there. So I'm just going to give her some good pressure and get that last little bit there on her leg filled in. And then we will move on to finishing the card. Just swapping out, getting that stamp off there for a second. There we go. Just give her some good pressure and she will be fully filled in. All right, so now I've got what's called a quickie glue pen, and it's just a pen with glue in it, and the glue is like a 2-way adhesive. It's gonna dry tacky, and that is the kind of glue that you want to use with Gilding Flakes or these Aurora Flakes, which is the same thing as Gilding Flakes. So I'm just filling in the solid music notes. I'm gonna leave the music notes that aren't solid black. So I am these quickie glue pens take some finesse. So if you push down on the nib, it's going to splat out some glue. And so what I did was I just pushed, what I found out worked best at least, is I pushed out some glue onto the dot part of the music note. I don't know if there's a technical term for that, but the circular part of the music note. And then I took the nib of the pen and I dragged it up the stick part of the music note. As you can see, I'm even using my pokey tool to see if that would work better. I found that it was just easier, instead of swapping tools, to just use the nib of the pen, because it is like a ballpoint pen, except the tip pushes down, if I can talk. So just don't push down while you're dragging the glue though. Otherwise you're gonna just keep putting more glue on your paper. So then I've got these Gilding Flakes, Aurora Flakes, whatever you want to call them, and they are messy. Do it on a piece of paper, do it in a box, whatever you got to do. But let the glue dry first. So the glue comes out blue, and then it will be clear when it's dry. So make sure that it's dry when you do this, otherwise you're just going to smear it all over your panel. And then just take out a little bit at a time. I probably have too much here. And then I'm going to put more. But anyway, so just take out a little bit at a time and rub it all over your panel here with the glue on it. And rub it in until it sticks. And then once you've got all the sticky parts covered, make sure that you got them all covered. And then we're going to, oh, I'm still covering them. It's going to take a minute to cover them all up and make sure everything's stuck real good, because you want to make sure that you get all those sticky little bits covered. You don't want to give somebody a sticky card, obviously. Then once you have them covered, take out a stiff bristled brush. I've got a stencil brush here. And then you're just going to knock everything away. Because right now you got one big blob of a dandelion here. There's nothing recognizable about those music notes. It just, because those big flakes stick onto the music notes and you just end up with a big blob. So then you're just going to just brush it away. And eventually those music notes are going to become identifiable as you keep brushing and keep brushing and keep brushing. And it's going to take a few minutes to brush all the extra bits away until you end up with something recognizable as your image. And then as you're brushing, you're making all these teeny tiny little dusty bits of that Gilding Flakes, and you make a huge mess. But don't worry, I have a solution for that. Just keep brushing and making that big old mess. So I just keep brushing and brushing and brushing. It's going to take a minute. There we go. Until you feel like your image is clear again. And then you can put some of this back in the jar. And then you take a Swiffer duster cloth and you wipe it off. And I use these for glitter too. These things are amazing for messy things like this. And you can wipe off your surface. You can wipe off the card like I did. And I'm wiping off my glass mat and cleaning up that mess. And then I take my brushes, anything that I've used to brush that mess off, and you wipe them in there too, because they're all full of these gilding flakes too. All these little teeny tiny bits of gilding flakes. And so then this is what I've got here. And you can see the shine. And like I said, I didn't cover them all with the gilding flakes. But you can see the shine and the difference between the black ones and the shiny ones. And it almost looks like it's been embossed with embossing powder, but it's not. It's not quite as raised as embossing powder would be. So now I'm just going to take this and I'm going to mat it on a black panel that I've cut to be a little bit bigger than this panel. And I feel that the black kind of makes the black stamping pop out on my bright background here. So just going to get that mounted on there. And I'm going to put my stamp platform on there to dry. And then we're going to take the dandelion and stamp on the inside of my cards, because I'm trying to get back into the habit of stamping on the insides of my cards. For those of you that don't know, I like to stamp on the insides of my cards because I am terrible about writing personal sentiments. So I do like to decorate the inside of my cards so it's not so plain. So this one I decided to stamp on it, and then I'm going to take that stencil that I didn't really give me that wow factor on the front, and I'm going to take my brushes, and I didn't put any more ink on these. I'm just going to use the leftover ink that's on them already, and we're just going to do a little bit of stenciling on the inside too. So we've got the peacock feathers here, and then we will move to the picked raspberry. And I probably should have masked this off, but I was just really careful. I did get a little bit on the card, and off screen I took my sand eraser and just sanded that off. I just got a little tiny bit where I didn't want it. So that was no big deal. Those sand erasers are a lifesaver for me because oftentimes I'm lazy and don't mask like I should. So as you can see, those little music notes on the side or up top and underneath, and then I got this one gets really close to the side, and that's where I got it. I got a little bit of peacock feathers on the side. All right, so now that I've done the inside, I'm just going to put my panel on the front. Glue that down. I hope you can't hear my neighbors. They're out there pounding on something. Of course, they have to do that when I'm doing a voiceover. All right, So I got my panel there on the front, and then to finish this off, I decided to bring out some gems. I have some Pink Fresh Studio crystal gems, and they just happen to be in most of the colors that I ink blended on the front of this card. So here in a second, I'm going to bring those out and adhere those to the front. And of course, it took me forever to figure out exactly where I wanted to put these, so I cut that out. And I'm not going to show you adhering all these gems. I'm just going to show a couple here. So I did make sure to match the colors of the gems up with the colors of my ink blending. And then that finishes off the card for today. I hope that you enjoyed the project and using some Gilding Flakes if you've never used those before. The supplies are listed in the description box below, as well as links to the Fairy Stamper store and the Fairy Stamper Facebook group. We have challenges over there and we share our projects, and I hope that you will join us there. And as always, have a great day.